Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
We started at a speedrome in Europe. We head to a speedrome here at North America. We are here at Daytona for round 2 of the Apex Racing League Prototype Championship, season 4 of this series. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick. Alongside me is Jack Cannan. John Robertson is bringing you these images on our YouTube channel tonight. And Jack, it is the first night round of the championship. Really, Daytona is synonymous with the night. We love to use the floodlights whenever possible. And we've got a 1 hour race coming up for us this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much, Sam. Yeah, Daytona is brilliant, honestly. It's a fantastic track. Great to see it in night time as well. Any of us who've done the 24 hours would have spent plenty of time behind the wheel of the car, under the floodlights, trying to avoid the now gone sausage curb on the exit of the bus stop, which I may have clouded about 3 times. But listen, this is a fantastic circuit for these particular cars, LMP1s and LMP2s mixed. We didn't get to see the LMP1s go around here too often, so nice to see how that's going to get mixed up as we begin qualifying.
Yeah, I feel like this may have been, and I'm not sure if you commentated on the last season of this, Jack, but was this the last round of season 3, I think? So it's not that long ago that we actually visited this track in these cars.
I did not do the previous season. That would be why. It's been a while. So
well, that means that you can't validate me being wrong. So we're going to assume that I am correct here. And it was only last season, last round, which we can categorically say with certainty that we visited this circuit. And so, like I said, it wasn't that long ago. I think that's a bit of controversy as well, actually, for the championship on that occasion. We're only in round 2 of this championship, and only 1 round under our belts so far. So I think we should be able to show you the championship order as it stands at the moment, and like I said, really not too much being set at the moment, with Lockie Brown at the top of the standings in the P1 category, Jack Wells in 2nd position, and then it's Louis Arai, who had a very good drive, started down in 8th place at Spa, but managed to get himself up into the top 3 by the end of the hour-long race. In the P2 Pros, we have currently got Daniel Kraft at the top of that one, ahead of his teammates Daniel Sivisabe and Nicole Foggy. And in the P2 AMS, Thomas Mork was extremely impressive last night, really mixing it with some of the pros. He's ahead of Morton Kofod and Ivan Damrick, but we have a couple of new entries. We've got a couple of new entrants who weren't able to take to the grid last time out, and so there is plenty of chances for that timing tower, or for that championship standings to change by the end of the season, as the first times in qualifying are now being put in.
Yeah, absolutely. Early days in the championship, obviously, but early rounds do mean points at the end of the day. So they could be the deciding factor. We just don't know yet, because this championship just tends to be very, very close, especially when we're talking about the LMP2 category, because it is a spec series. Obviously, everyone's in the same car. Obviously, in the LMP1 category, you've got the difference between the Porsche and the Audi, but they do equal out in the end. But the P2s are so competitive, and they're a very, very popular class. They were very popular, obviously, in the official series as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the battle's going to be worn out tonight as well. There's going to be plenty of slipstreaming, of course, the slipstreaming around the oval section as well. I think maybe an early prediction here, Sam. I reckon that maybe in the LMP2 category, because of how close it is, I think we might get a photo finish tonight.
That's pretty much the first thing I think of whenever we visit to a track. What are the chances of photo finish? It looks great on social media, and of course that's what we're all about. So I think it is very possible, as you say. This is the ultimate photo finish circuit, isn't it? I mean, I think, you know, Phillip Islands, in terms of maybe the non-Robles, is maybe #1 on that one. It would be great to have Sepang on here as well one day. That's very much lined up for photo finish. But yeah, this circuit, if anything, you want to be second place out of the bus stop in order to have your best chance at the race win. And yeah, those tactics will very much be prominent potentially later on. And of course, also the slipstream, Jack, very important for fuel saving as well. I mean, you don't want to be the driver ahead. If you can stay, say, the first 35 minutes in the tow of another driver, then you're going to definitely have a shorter pit stop and take the lead later on, as Matt Loveridge takes the lead in this qualifying session. He goes to the top of the standings.
Yeah, good lap from Matt Loveridge there. But yeah, as you said, the fuel saving is going to be a key factor here, because it is worth a lot. When the driver in front is at full throttle, the guy behind who's in the draft could be maybe half throttling and staying with you at the same speed. So it is worth being behind in the early stages, just to save some fuel and get the advantage later on in the race, of course. And pit strategy, of course, in this series, if you're familiar with it, there is a mandatory pit stop in it as well. So the drivers have to come in during the 1 hour session, of course. And around here, the pit lane is deceivingly tricky. I can attest from experience. Trying to come in, get it slowed down on the way into the pit lane, but also coming out. If you decide for any reason to put on fresh tires and they get cold, it's very easy actually to have a lapse of concentration and understeer into that concrete wall. And also the pit lane does go on for quite a significant amount of time. You've got to stay on the limiter until you're about halfway out of that left-hander in the pit lane until you can go full throttle. So there's little things to think about, but this arguably is one of the trickiest pit entries and exits on the calendar.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I've raced in the NASCAR Trucks, the Apex Racing League NASCAR Trucks series, and of course I'm sure everyone knows I did win a round of the championship in that, so I'm very much qualified to say anything about ovals, because I did 7 races around there one time. And yeah, any oval pit entry is extremely tricky. Of course, you're going at such a high speed, and you got to line it up just right. You do need to dedicate a bit of time before the race starts in order to really nail those pit entries. Yeah, if you possibly can. And yeah, I've never driven this circuit with the new pit lane exit, but it is quite good that you got that limiter. As Kraft, our championship leader, of course, he moves into second position on the standings. Matthias Burke, I don't think took part last week. He is currently there in third, and Louis Araya moves to the top of the P1, so that is a very strong time from Araya. Third place, of course, last time out at Spa.
Yeah, great lap from Lewis right there in the Porsche, representing there as well. Obviously, the back and forth between the Porsches and the Audis over the course of the season will be interesting to see. They're going to be strong at different tracks. There's the difference between the times. Lewis Araya, the only man in the 24s right there. Really, really strong effort. There's nearly 6/10 clear of Loveridge there. P2 Pro 32.0 by Daniel Civizabo at the moment, with Kraft 2/10 back, and in P2 it is very, very close. We got Merck up in 32.8. We've got Burke on a 32.9, Sorensen on a 33.0, Maltrek on a 33.1, and Kufud on a 33.2. So they're very, very evenly matched there, as Leno Wilhelmsen crossed the line for on a 26.537. And I have to give it out to Leno as well. He did represent Iceland in one of the European Digital Motorsports Championships, and I can attest to thank their team for helping me with Icelandic pronunciation, because trust me, they are not easy, Sam.
That's exactly what I was just thinking. I mean, I was about to go, ha, Jack, try to say this name, ha 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 ha, and then all of a sudden you absolutely nail it, unprompted. So, real power move earlier in the season, that one. But you absolutely nailed that one. So I'm just going Bill Helmson, and apparently that's the closest us British folk can say it. Yeah. But Ilner is currently in P6. You can see it on the time board there. Loveridge, what time is this? Like, no green sectors I'm seeing at the moment for Loveridge. This is going to be his last. No, it will not be his last lap. Apologies. No, it will be his last lap. My bad. Because all the drivers are out there by themselves, and so they've got to complete their lap before the 10 minutes is up. I don't think this is going to be enough for Loveridge to take pole position, and well, it was a good effort, to be fair, nearly an improvement, even though I don't see any green on the timing board, but maybe that's just the timing board glitching out. Jackie Lotzman is still out on circuit, and Thomas Sorensen racing to the line. Again, I don't see any green sectors. He will be the last driver to just reach the line, I think, with about a second spare.
Here he comes. Let's see if it's enough. He's just going to make it. Is it an improvement on his previous time? It is, and it's going to put him just behind Burke right there by a couple of hundredths. So really close in the P2 AM, less than a tenth of a second covering those guys. Very, very good indeed from them. But it is with a very, very impressive lap, Sam. Luis Araya on pole in LMP1 by nearly 0.6 of a second.
Well, he's gone from last on the grid in round 1 to first on the grid in round 2. So Araya on pole here, 0.6 of a second ahead of Matt Loveridge, who of course had a very disappointing start and looks strong for P2. He'll be looking to get some points back, really important. He has a good result tonight. Josh Lane, new driver to the series, he's there in third place. Next, Jack Wells, Stian Solberg, Hilner Wilhelmsen, Roberto De Filippis. Apologies, Roberto. Your name has not been fixed on the overlay, my bad on that one. We'll make sure to get that fixed later on. Chase Robertson is in 8th position. Then top of the P2s is Daniel Civi Sabo ahead of his teammate Daniel Kraft. Then it's Matthias Burke, great to see him out there, of course, very successful Porsche Cup driver in the past in Apex Racing League. Then it is Jackie Lotzman, great to see him out there. I think, Lotzman won. I think he won the GT3 category in the Apex Racing League British GT Championship about 2.5 years ago, along with many other race wins, I'm sure, for Jackie. James Ibrahim, another new driver to the series, there in 13th place. Next, Alexander Luritzen. Thomas Mork is top of the P2 AMS, continuing his good start to the season. Brian Pigmans upsets the perfect segregation between the pros and the AMS, so don't particularly like Brian tonight. Jaden Burke is in second place out of the AMS. Then it is Thomas Sorensen, Christian Malchurek, Marco Pavona, Morton Kofod, Ivan Damrick, Justus Marks, Paul Klist is in 24th position. And then it says Fabio Grassetto, who was not allowed to set a qualifying time, and Jake Shurey is the last driver on the grid.
Yeah, as they begin to roll away, they're just before the bus stop chicane. They will start to roll, and there will be, of course, a separation between the LMP1s and the LMP2s to make sure they all get away nice and cleanly. But a great opportunity, as you said, for Luis Araya from last on the grid last week to pole this week. And let's see if he can convert it. Porsche and Audi sharing the front row here. And yeah, we're going to be interested to see. We've got an hour-long race here. Of course, mandatory pit stop in the middle. Field strategy going to be very, very key around here. So being the first car in line is not necessarily where you want to be at some point. You kind of want to be in the draft-saving field, as we said earlier. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But it'll be a big opportunity for Luis Araya to maybe snatch a win. Let's see if Matt Loveridge can maybe upset that on the outside line in the Audi. But it'll be interesting to see as the LMP1s begin to roll towards the line. And this should be a fun race, Sam.
For sure. Now, there is a green flag zone for the drivers. They have to go after the divide between the track and the pit lane. So you just see the white line coming up there. It is, and they are free to go now. And still, he holds on slightly. Does Arai. He wants to leave it right to the line, maybe minimize the slipstream effect. He launches away very impressively, and it's a comfortable lead so far for the Norwegian driver. We are running here at Daytona. Big move around the outside for Lovage. You might even be able to make this one, you know. He's off camber, however, through turn 1. They almost make contact. Now they're having to leave space for one another. That was super close, super aggressive, but it's still Araya who leads going through the first couple of corners. What is going on in the P2? Civi Savage just crossing the line right now. He seems to have got away well, but his teammate Daniel Kraft is under pressure from the Apex Tech Racing drivers. That is Burke trying to get underneath him. However, staying alongside, flat out through this chicane and heading into the hairpin for the first time. Looks like Kraft is going to be able to hold on to this one. Also, good start for Luritzen just behind. He's up a place. Also, good start for Brian Pigmans. The pro driver gets him past a couple of amps. He's up 2 places from his original starting spot.
Yeah, great side-by-side action already. Here's Lewis Araya under pressure from Matt Loveridge in the Audi, trying to go side-by-side through the oval. Looks like they're going to swap around as they head down towards the bus stop chicane. They're fighting hard early on between these two as they head into the bus stop. Will they yield? So close, there's contact, and there they go together. Loveridge is around in the bus stop chicane into the wall and have fought so hard early on, and unfortunately Matt Loveridge ends up at the receiving end of contact on the way through the bus stop on lap number 1 and ends up spearing into the tyre wall. And it seems now Jack Wells has come out of all that in the lead. Lewis Araya drops to 3rd with damage. Solberg up to 2nd. And immediately, it just seemed maybe too aggressive early on there, Sam. I'm not sure why you'd be racing each other into the bus stop that early.
Well, it was coming, wasn't it? From the first corner. They seemed to really have their elbows out. And then, of course, the P3 driver, who I'm not sure who it was, always, we got Lane into the wall. I think it was Lane, who was going to inherit the race lead. And then he lost it by himself. The bus stop, and now Solberg has got a problem as well. He's just dropped down a couple of places. There he is, going very slowly. It's a craziness in the P1 class. Now the drivers do have a faster pair, as we have an overtake here from Mateus, but he wasn't able to get it done earlier on, and this looks like a carbon copy from earlier, but Mateus slightly further ahead. He can't cover off that inside line, which is so advantageous through the first hairpin, and again it looks like Pure Sims are going to be able to protect their 1-2 lead. But yeah, absolutely craziness so far. And like I said, Wells up 3 places into the lead early on.
Yeah, that's how quickly it can change. Thane Wilhelmsen is also up to 3rd in class as well in the LMP1s after all that. Here's the P2 pros are still side by side here with Kraft here and Matthias Burke. He's really having to fight to hang on to this 2nd place. Of course, he's got his teammate Daniel Sivizab in front, but poor old Daniel Kraft has got all of the Apex Tech cars behind him in a big line. Of course, you got Burke, Lotterman, Lordson all up behind him. The big draft effect is going to come in now. He can't afford to lose a draft to his teammate looking underneath. Matthias Burke with a brave move to the inside going into the bus stop chicane. He's not going to quite get alongside as they come through, but again Daniel Kraft doing a great job and an amazing defensive work there to try to keep these guys behind. Burke may be a little bit slow out of the bus stop there, but I think Lotterman may be able to just give his teammate a bump here. You can bump draft to these cars, it's very effective, but really hard fighting early on in this hour-long race. But you can see all the 4 Apex Tech cars are all on the line and they're on the attack on poor Daniel Kraft. Here he comes up the inside. Matthias Burke into turn 1. Lotterman trying to go with him as well. He opens the door for his teammate. They go side by side, almost contact, and that is a perfectly executed overtake from the 2 Apex Tech cars. Brilliantly done.
Wow, I mean, this is insane racing at the moment, isn't it? They're so aggressive right now. I mean, that move onto the apron for Burke was absolutely wild, and eventually the 2 of them do get past. 3rd time lucky to get past Kraft, and that should prevent Pure Sims from really having a stranglehold on this race. It has held them up slightly, and going to invite the likes of Luritzen, who's up 3 places so far. Luritzen was not a great qualifying for him, but he is up 3 places, doing really well at the moment, as we see a replay of this instant. Now, was it Loveridge who came across? I've got to say that I think Loveridge should have left more space, and you can see there the spinning Lane, who, to be fair to him, I thought he just lost it by himself. He was actually reacting to those other 2 drivers, trying to get it stopped. I think he avoided the wall initially, but then had his own accident a few corners later. But yeah, I don't know how you feel about that one, Jack, but I think Loveridge could have left a bit more space on the outside, but then at the same time, maybe the driver on the inside shouldn't have gone for them even in the first place.
Yeah, it's just the nature of the bus stop, really, as you see some of the P1s having to carve their way back through. This is, of course, Josh Lane, who's having to, who we just saw him spin out in the middle of the bus stop earlier on. He's having to now make his way back through. He's got Loveridge up in front of him now. So these two got to try to work together, try to get back up. But yeah, it's so hard to call on that one. It's very, very hard racing, but it's aggressive racing, maybe a little bit too early on in the race, because even if Araya was overtaken, he's got the draft for the next part. So it's tight. I think it was a racing incident, honestly, because I think both of them could have left more space for each other. But at the end of the day, you know, they're all racing. They all want to keep their position, so it's hard to call. But at least they have all managed to keep going. Araya is still up in second anyways. Jack Wells still leads that class. We're on board with Daniel Kraft, who's sitting in behind the two Apex Tech cars. Now, it has calmed down a bit, as you can see, as the guys, you can hear the lift and coax through the corners. The fuel-saving strategy has now begun, so the early battle for track position has now turned into a little bit of a strategy battle now. But I think Matthias Berg and Lotterman are exactly where they want to be now. They wanted to get themselves in between the two cars of Daniel Civizawa and Daniel Kraft, so they can't work with each other, but these guys now can work with each other.
Yeah, and you can argue that, yeah, basically Apex are in the perfect place right now, because, you know, Civizawa's got absolutely no draft for himself at the moment. Burke has got a draft, and so too does Lotsman, as I think there's... Is that Ibra maybe? No, I think that was just Lane. Apologies, just moving his way through. Also, no worries there for any of the P2s, as there goes the Audi absolutely storming around the outside. So they're pretty much through this whole pack now as the bump drafting continues for the Apex Tech Racing drivers. So odd to see P2s in bumping and drafting. But yeah, seemingly working well for them at the moment. So they see the amount of time that Kraft was able to gain whilst the P1 was moving his way through. And this is quite a tricky circuit, I'd say, to overtake in the P1s, because pretty much around this entire infield section, Jack, it's not easy to get past. It's just so narrow, and also a lot of corners where, if you're the P2 car, you might take quite a tight entry into a few of these hairpins. They don't necessarily open up the corner as much as the P1s expect. So both parties have got to be very, very aware.
Yeah, it's tricky enough trying to get past GT3s, but getting past prototypes is even trickier, because, as you said, some of the corners are just taken so tightly that it's impossible to try and get past. So you have to almost wait to the oval, but it costs you a lot of time. As you can see here, this is the battle for second now between Lewis Araya and Leonard Wilhelmsen, who are working with each other a little bit there as they try to maybe catch up to Jack Wells. Brian Pigmans and Grassetto, who's of course started right at the very back, is now chasing after him. After earlier on, they're trying to stay on the back of that battle of the Apex Tech cars. Of course, all these guys are still sort of all clumped together. The P2 pros, they haven't dropped off each other too much. This is Matthias Berg and Lotterman now bump drafting, but now they have the problem of Daniel Kraft is going to try and get by the both of them. But of course, the bump draft's going to help him round the outside. Can he go round the outside of both of them here? Daniel Kraft into turn one, late on the brakes. Even if he can get sandwiched up between two of them, it'd be a win for him. We're all the way around the outside. He can't do it. There's a car rejoining there, it seemed, on the way through turn one, and that was Josh Lane, who very nearly rejoined into the path of them. But Josh Lane is really not having a good day at the office. That is ended up in turn one in turn one backwards, and I think Wilhelmsen may have been caught up in it as well, as he was exiting turn one quite slowly there. But Daniel Kraft, he's trying his best to sandwich himself between these two cars, but it's not quite working. And at the same time, Daniel Civizawa is actually gapped them, and it seems like he's almost out of that draft range, which would be a great chance for him to sort of start fuel saving now.
Yeah, that would be an absolute big win for him. 2 seconds up the road. Here is what happened to Lane then, who's already hit the wall at turn one when he made contact with another driver. Oh wow, and there was the rejoining. Is that Pigmans? Must have been, I think it was Pigmans. Oh, look at this. Oh, it's all going on. And this is involving, I think, the leaders as well. Civizawa, I think, got through that, but Lotsman got caught up in it, and now the Apex Tech cars are extremely slow, and Lauritsen is going to move past past the pair then, I believe, who has got
my
damage in all of this one as the teammates are almost coming together. The 1-3-2 moving around the outside, that's Ibram going super fast right there, and looks like he might be able to profit from this. So it's a Pure Sims 1-2, and the Apex cars are so close to one another. Don't hit each other, guys, if you can possibly avoid it. In the end, they end up the top 3. However, there's almost contact as they go through where there is contact now, and that could be a dangerous rejoin if you can't get it stopped on the grass. Just about does, scatters the cones over the track, and that could have been a whole lot worse. But where did that all start off? It must have been a P1 moving his way through the order.
My God, I have never seen so many cars with the same livery, almost 4 abreast into the bus stop chicane. This is we got the P1s trying to come through as well. There was obviously some kind of contact and spin in the middle there, which caused all that. And this has given Civisalba a bit of a break. Civisalba got through it, but the Apex Tech cars, maybe one of them did pick up damage. They may have escaped, but Daniel Kraft has now managed to clear all of the Apex Tech cars and kept going, and Civisalba is miles clear out in front now, thanks to all the shenanigans that happened there. Daniel Kraft now into second, but without the benefit of a draft to anybody behind, and all the Apex Tech cars are all in a big long line up together, as you can see here, with Matthias Berg still at the front of it, Lauritsen still drafting him, and we may be able to see what happened here. This is Burke heading into the bus stop chicane. You got a P1 up in front who just makes a mistake going through the middle part of it, gets all out of shape, and Burke just collects him. And to be fair, that could have ended a lot worse for them. They managed to keep going, but Daniel Kraft absolutely threading the needle, goes through the middle of all of it, and they somehow come out together. But Burke with a little bit of damage on the front end, but that could have been race ending either way.
I think that was Chase Robertson, I believe, who is now in the pits. Yeah, Robertson now in the pits, so he may have picked up some damage. I think he may have already used his fast repair as well. So the Apex cars will be very frustrated with that turn of events. But I think you saw who got the most damage there. Who was it there, Jack?
I think it was Burke who collected him initially, so I think that's why he's dropped down to 4th now. Lauritsen is the lead Apex Tech car. It doesn't look like too much, but you can kind of see visually there the gap's already increasing, so he's going to suffer in the straight line.
Yeah, and that will probably change their strategy quite a bit. Probably pit ASAP. Usually the P2 cars, they go about 40 minutes, I believe, in this series. No restrictions on fuel. They just don't go especially far compared to maybe the GT cars. So we've got Burke getting a big helping hand there from Ibram, his teammates, and also Grassetto moving past Lotzman. So Lotzman also got damage in all of that, and he is really struggling. Well, that was a little bit of a shame, because I think we would have had a very good battle between the top 2, or the 2 Pure Sims cars, and the top 2 Apex cars, as that is Pigments moving past the pair of drivers there, because just so slow down the straights right now is Burke, and he is an absolute sitting duck, and he already comes into the pits. He will not get to the end of the race from here, but I think he's just losing so much time. He wants to do something about it. He feels like an extra pit stop is worth it.
Yeah, a little bit of contact going through turn 1 as well. The Apex cars are sort of getting swamped a little bit now. He had Lauderman come in as well. Grassetto's on a bit of a charge as well. Remember, he did not qualify. He started right at the back, and he's made his way all the way up to P6 and onto the back of these guys as well. Pigman's going well in P4. Ibram slotted in behind in P5 after that incident, and they carry on now. But it is Daniel Civisalba who leads that class. Daniel Kraft is second, and Lauritsen is still nicely in third now. Doesn't have the draft to the cars in front, but is not caught in the draft behind either. So we'll see how this works out for Matthias Burke later on in the race. He has, of course, got the fast repair and all of that to go with, as we did have a swap for second. Solberg now up to second in LMP1. Lewis Araya P3 with Wilhelmsen still behind him. So these guys have sort of been stuck together for the best part of the last 14-15 minutes as they carve their way through the LMP2 traffic on their way down towards the bus stop chicane. And interesting to see now how they get on. But Jack Wells, he's sort of taken the lead on lap 1, and he hasn't really had any problems since that. And you can see the LMP2 is just not quite working out there for Wilhelmsen on the way through. That happens, it's just the way it goes, but it can be frustrating when you catch a traffic in the wrong place and you have to You have to lift off, and just like that, you can see Wilhelmsen's already lost the draft to Luis Araya just by having one car get in between him and the bus stop.
Yeah, and you'll see here that at the end of the straight, there's not really much an advantage for the P1 cars. The main advantage that they have is the boost that they can apply, which of course increases their horsepower to around 1,000 as far as I am aware, and of course also turns the car into a four-wheel drive. It applies that boost to the front wheels, and so they can easily accelerate past the P2s, but when it comes to these long straights here at Daytona, it is a little bit more tricky for them. Yeah, well, I mean, you would have had long odds, no disrespect to Jack Wells, on Wells leading the race at this point. But he is looking like a man at home right now. He is 4 seconds clear of Stein, Solberg, Araya potentially with damage, of course. Loveridge is currently 16.5 seconds back. Now, Loveridge was very quick last week, and on that last lap, Loveridge, in fact, was only 2 seconds faster than Wells a bit. You have to think that part of that was probably traffic for the race leader. So I would not count out Loveridge. I think those drivers who had problems early on may well get themselves back into play. Probably Josh Lane too far back, but certainly Loveridge and Araya. Watch out for them later on to make an impression on the race leader.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of having the pit strategy. It will probably come back, but Jack Wells very comfortable as he just gets his way past Grissetto across the start-finish line. And you'll see there 27.2, so personal best for Jack Wells that time across the line, and is very comfortable. Solberg going to, because to be fair, Solberg's going well in second place, 26.8, going quicker than our current race leader as well. So Steven Solberg, let's not count him out either, looking very, very good. And we'll see if he can maybe get himself up to the battle later on, of course, and as they make their way through the traffic. That is the P2 AM leader, Thomas Merck, who is very, very comfortable, 8.2 seconds up in front, looking nice and comfortable. Jake Shuri is P2 in that one, Sorensen in third. So fair play to Shuri. He's sort of breaking up that Danish domination at the front of the P2 AM field.
Yeah, of course, Shuri didn't set a qualifying time either, did he? He started right from the back, so he's had to make up a lot of moves. So he should be a rival for Mork maybe in the remaining time. If he's only lost 7.7 seconds whilst making his way up through the order as Wilhelmsen moves back ahead of Araya, but it feels like about the 5th change of position that these two have had. So I don't necessarily think that's going to hold on for a while. As you can see, Araya very slow. That might just be the energy deployment there from Wilhelmsen, trying to deploy a lot of energy off the pit. You see the amount of damage on Araya's car. I don't think that's something that he's got recently, though. I don't see any bad sector time. Oh, you know what? Actually, he did have a problem in Sector 4. He lost about 1.3 seconds in Sector 4 on this lap, so there might be an off-track for us to pick up on. And in fact, he is now losing a fair bit of time is Luis Araya. So a bit concerning this one. Look at that, he's now 6 seconds behind Wilhelmsen. So, wow, this is bad news for the 93 car. And I think he has gone off at Sector 4 on this lap at some point.
Yeah, perhaps, because but on the way down the straight, I've a feeling he got a slowdown in the bus stop chicane and had to take it down the straight and has lost a chunk of time. But yeah, you're right, he has picked up damage there somewhere around, and it seems to be more pronounced than it was before. So Luis Araya, the pole sitter, not looking great at the moment for him, and maybe now might consider maybe coming in and trying to get that damage repaired, or try to get it to where he can at least get the fuel to the end. You've got to start obviously think about that as well. So really not a good day so far for Luis Araya as he comes out. He'll be able to clear this LMP2. At least you would hope that he would be able to clear this LMP2, but as you can see, very much struggling. He's actually slower than the LMP2 in a straight line at the moment, and this is a lot of damage to Luis Araya's car, as he cannot even catch up to an LMP2 in the slipstream. So this is going to have to be, you would think, a damage stop to try and get that damage repaired. But he will be able to get it with the fast repair. But as well, can he get that car to the end? But that is that's quite significant damage actually when you look at it. When you can see how slow he is in a straight line compared to the guys in front. So it's gone very, very wrong for Luis Araya very, very quickly.
Yeah, he's losing pretty much 10 seconds a lap right now, is Araya. But he's so close to the pit window, he probably only needs to get to about 23, 24 minutes into the race, so probably 3 more laps. and he'll be safe. But of course, you know, I mean, there's not an easy solution to this. He's going to lose time either way. But you see Loveridge out there, of course, with that extra pit stop. He had his damage so early on, but Loveridge is going to be with Oriah by the time that Oriah is able to make that pit stop. And of course, now that he's committed, he may as well just continue out there. I think maybe it would have been a better decision to come in straight away and lose maybe 30 seconds in the pits. Well, yeah, he's done 2 laps now with it, so he will just do a couple more and then make his mandatory pit stop. There is Daniel Sirisabi, 1.8 seconds now the gap between him and Kraft, and Lauritsen seemingly no rival. Now Kraft was quite convincingly ahead of Sirisabi last week. They were close in the early stages, but once Kraft dropped Sirisabi, got him out of the draft, he seemed to pull away. I think the gap was over 5 seconds by the end of the race. But this time, Sirisabi seems to have plenty, well, not plenty in hand, but he seems to be at least a match. In the last lap, Kraft was about 1/4 of a second quicker. Let's see what it is this time round. Kraft another 0.3 of a second quicker, so the gap is coming down fairly significantly, and we'll see if Kraft can keep that up in this battle for the race win.
Yeah, let's see if it works. Sivizabo, of course, has been in control since the very start of the race, and he's got his teammate behind him, so that is a comfort for him to carry on. And he knows he won't be under too much of a significant attack, but he will know his teammate is there, catching up, and almost in the draft now is Daniel Kraft. Let's see if it works for him. Lauritsen sitting comfortably 3rd at the moment. And just having a look, Lauderman and Burke have been in clean air for the past little while as well. Of course, they pitted early to repair their various bits of damage. So we'll see if that works for them. They've got about 20 seconds of clean air. They're 39. Lauderman's 39 seconds off the lead, and 49 off the lead is behind there as we go back to a battle in the P2. And you've got Jaden Burke, and you've got Paul Joseph Clist on the outside, and he has to secede the position to Jaden Burke, who came through turn number 1, made it to stick it up the inside there as they battle for 8th in class. Let's see if this pays off for him there. Nice little scrap going on right there. Very wide for Burke there, but he carries the speed through the exit of the hairpin right there, and that is a tricky hairpin to get right. You've got to keep it as tight as you like to the inside and run it all the way out to the runoff on the exit. As you can see, Daniel Kraft is the fastest lap of the race in class. As you can see, a further battle going on. This is between these two here. You've got Thomas Merck, who's getting lapped currently by the number 127 car, but he's battling with the pros, interestingly enough, which is interesting to see. He's up there battling with the pro guys and mixing it up, as there's always at least one in each series, I suppose, Sam, in the AM class, who really shows that they can mix it with the pro class.
Yeah, and the ARL admins are really great guys. I mean, really top people, and they do a great job at devising the classes. But yes, there is always a couple who really overperform in the AMs. There was Clist with a spin, and yes, and Mork is doing really well. I mean, Shuri, to be fair, now that he's in clean air, Mork and Shuri are matching each other. So it's a shame that we didn't have that battle from the race start, because I think they would have been really close. And what you got to remember as well in the P2 category is you score points for your overall position in your class, or in your car class, sorry. So if Mork can beat a couple of pro drivers, then that is going to reward him in terms of points. So that is something to consider. Mork has an interest in beating the likes of Pigmans and Grassetto, who's now behind him. Grassetto, remember, starting from the back of the pack just like Shuri, so he is probably going to be able to make his way past as DeFilippis and Loveridge are having a bit of a battle. Here comes Mork though, on the back of Pigmans once again, and Mork moves ahead of Pigmans. Is the overspeed enough for him to be able to cover off the inside heading into turn 1? I think it just about is. He was late on the brakes and he does move through, and now Grassetto is probably the next who's going to be able to get past Pigmans.
Yeah, good move from Thomas Merck there as he makes his way up into an overall class position in mixing it up with the pro class. And you can see that Loveridge managed to pass DeFilippis on that lap for 4th, so Loveridge on a bit of a charge up through the P1 field. As in comes Luis Araya, so you were right, he just carried on until he could get into a safe pit window, but he has lost a massive amount of time thanks to that damage from earlier on, and he'll take a fuel stop, and he should be able to get that car to the end of the race now. But to think from where he started to where he is now, it's been a bit of a fall, but all he can do is carry on, because you never know, something could happen as he makes his way down the pit lane. It's a long slog, the pit lane. You've got to avoid that concrete wall on the outside. It's very easy to understeer into it. And back to the front of the P2 Pros, Daniel Croft has closed into his teammate, 9/10 of a second, and that means that he is in the draft range of the car in front of him now. So this is exactly what he wants. He can do a little bit of fuel saving now. There's still a little bit of ways away from their pit stop window, and there you go. Daniel Croft, fastest lap of the race again, 32.767, so he's looking like the fastest man on, he is the fastest man on the circuit right now in the P2s.
Yeah, and such consistency as Grosseto has got past Pigmans, by the way, down to turn 1, just behind them. Such consistency there for Croft, and probably a bit of a boost on that last lap. Why he went so fast was just getting a bit of the draft going up to the start-finish line. Setting a really strong time there. Grosseto still trying to get this one done on Pigmans. Needs to make sure he doesn't understeer too much. They've got Lotterman. Apologies, so the car behind them is that Shuri? Oh, super close there. Just about getting through is Grosseto. Yeah, it's the 127 of... sorry, so Grosseto getting past Mork there. And Pigmans also involved in this one. And after all of that, Pigmans remains at the back, and Grosseto gains 2 places and can really charge after the cars ahead. He's not got far to catch up to James Ibram and also Alexander Luritsen, so it could still be a podium for Grosseto, which, considering that he started from the back, would be a mighty effort.
Certainly would, and that Grosseto car is looking fantastic as well. Lovely livery, very reminiscent of Minardi on that car as well, which is maybe making him go faster. You never know. Obviously we know Minardi was incredibly fast in its time. No, but he's making it look quick tonight. But of course, Merck now trying to again battle for class position here, drafting past, and watch out for the 127 car behind as well, who may be able to get the double move on here. They may go 3 wide into turn 1. They are going to go 3 wide into turn 1. Who's going to be the bravest here as they come into turn 1? Can the number 127 car sweep all the way around the outside of the both of them? He sure can. Brilliant move. One of the Apex cars is in the wall in turn number 1, and that has not gone well for them.
Ibram.
It seems like Ibram, who was in the wall right there, who unfortunately came a cropper, and that looked like heavy damage. Here it is, James Ibram into turn 1, gets it turned in, gets on the power on the way out, and just clips the grass. It's just such a lazy, slow speed spin, and ends up, thankfully, out of the way. But it's unfortunate getting on the grass on the exit there. That is a very common mistake from some drivers there, and just drops it into the concrete wall right there. But 3 wide into turn 1 round the outside. That was brave.
Yeah, I thought this battle was over. I thought Grosseto was just going to be gone, but Pigmans had other ideas. I think Mork quite happy just to be at the back of this one, save maybe a bit of fuel. But yeah, that was absolutely mega. And the draft is so strong in these P2 cars. I'm not sure how realistic it is. I'm going to admit I don't watch much sports car racing, but I mean, we'll see it this time with Grosseto just getting so much, and you can see it with the leaders as well. Kraft getting that gap down, albeit lifting off. You can see the gap actually increasing, so Kraft, I think, pretty much lifted off there around the start-finish line. He doesn't want to overtake his teammate. There's no point in overtaking his teammate. He'll save fuel and try to have a shorter stop later on. But Grosseto is now past Pigmans, and you saw the gap that there was between the two of them. And there is, of course, the downforce settings that these drivers will use, which will affect their straight line speed. But still, the draft is so strong that if you're within maybe half a second going on to the main straight, you're going to have a chance. And of course, that means that come the final lap, does very much indicate you want to be the second place driver if you possibly can. About halfway through this race, and also Malchurek has just got past Kofod, just seeing that for 4th position in the P2 AMS.
Yeah, making a good charge up through the field he is as they make their way through. But of course now they're just lifting. They're just lifting off as you alluded to. Of course, I believe from what I remember from the iRacing patch notes, it's no longer possible for these guys to just dump the clutch down the straight to save fuel. They have to just lift off. I think it just it is not quite as doable as it was before. So if you had a clutch pedal, you were able to just put the clutch in, get the revs to idle, and it would save a lot of fuel. But I don't think that quite works as well as it did before. It is obviously still a tactic, but I think lifting and coasting is the way to go. As Civizábal crossed the line for another lap in the lead. He's led every single lap so far. As they come across the line, sets a personal best, that time 33.0, Daniel Croft 32.94, as Wilhelmsen moves into second in LMP1. And has Solberg had a problem there, I wonder, because he was quite a ways in front, but Wilhelmsen on a good charge. You can kind of see Solberg was only about a couple of seconds off there and has dropped off the way. Let's see what happened.
Yeah, he lost 6 seconds due to this. And, well, already actually, apologies, so the 93 was behind him, but Solberg leads it all by himself and just reaches the wall. I mean, I've made that mistake in Daytona 24 hours. I don't think it was the year that I won the event, but enough about me. Yeah, very easy to do, basically, is what I'm saying, even for the best, like myself. And so Solberg down to 3rd place. Wilhelmsen, though, is the first one into the pits on the half hour, and we're expecting the drivers to go about 5 more minutes. Araya pitted at 24 minutes, I believe, which indicates that the drivers can go about 36 minutes worth of fuel, unless Araya was planning on fuel saving, I guess, but not so easy to do in these P1s, seeing that, of course, you recollect the energy from braking anyway, and also De Philippis into the pits as well. Still 7 of these LMP1s going, only Robertson, the one driver who's out. I think he had a couple of incidents early on which ruled him out of contention.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can see Grassetto and Pigments are still battling for position right here as he comes round the outside, taking the high line through the final corner and about to cross the start-finish line to begin another lap. And let's see if he can get in front before the first corner. Now remember, Pigments did this to him, but Pigments backs off and is happy to sit behind into turn 1 and just maybe think about drafting past once again. But early stops are the first stops for Wilhelmsen, who was battling for second. You've got Malcherek and Kafud still battling here for position. Malcherek trying to come around the outside. Kafud kind of just lets him go there into turn 1, gets a little bit loose on the way through. Turn 1 again on the exit, a little bit slidey. Traction control would have kicked in there, cost him a bit of time on the exit. And Kafud is going to sit behind and just wait for that draft. But that turn 1 is very, very scary to try and get slowed down for, because if you get it wrong, you're going to shoot right across into the escape road. It is also, of course, if you've got a bit of a fast setup on, it's going to be quite oversteery through that corner as well, and you end up sliding your way through turn 1, which is what you don't want to do. The traction control will start kicking in and cost you a lot of time on the exit. So you've got to be very, very careful with your throttle application in these cars as they come onto the oval once again. As they now cross the line here, here's the P2 pros. It's still Civizábal and Daniel Croft. You've got Helpson, I think, just making his way through past them, coming through turn 1. He's going to get caught behind Civizábal. He's going to be patient and just wait for his opportunity to get past into the next hairpin. But ever since Croft caught up to Civizábal, he hasn't pushed any further. He's happy to fuel save in the draft and let his teammate punch a hole in the air for him.
Yeah, and that's certainly the smart thing to do for Kraft. And yeah, probably another 5 minutes for these drivers until they come into the pits as well. Shout out to SDK Gaming, by the way, the providers of our live timing and also our overlays. Lots of them comes into the pits. SDK Gaming, yeah, doing that, along with also a heads-up display as well whilst you are driving. and the live timing for us, absolutely imperative for us to know what's going on out on track. You can even access the live timing yourself. There's a link in the description below. You can click on that, and then you can have a web page open with everything that's going out on circuit, the gaps between the drivers, the last lap time, the best lap time, their pit stop times as well. Really useful stuff. So thanks to SDK Gaming for sponsoring this series and offering some prizes to the drivers and teams. And do check out sdk-gaming.co.uk if you want to get an overlay like this. It really is the absolute best you can possibly get in all of iRacing. Lotsman back out of the pits in 7th position, way out of contention for the race win. Of course, that's the number 14 of Josh Lane, the next one to come up against the Pure Sims cars. And you would expect Sevi Sabe to have to pit in 1 lap earlier than Kraft Luritzen the next in. And this is very much indicating with Grosseto joining him, this is pretty much as far as the fuel can go. So maybe 1 more lap for the leaders, and maybe Kraft will be able to stretch it 1 more lap further than that even. Luritzen and Grosseto, of course, in that tight battle for the podium. Luritzen with a gap at the moment, but you'll need to be quick on pit road in order to keep that gap over the Italian.
Yeah, absolutely. Saving an extra lap of fuel is worth a lot. Even at a short track, when you're talking about tracks like the Nordschleife, it is worth a humongous amount of time. But even if you can get an extra lap on fuel anywhere, it is really worth it. Not having the stress of wondering whether you're going to make it on fuel. That you save it early and you have that. As you can see, oh, we've got Pigments off at, I think that coming into the hairpin. That looked like to me. Let's see what happened here. That's an interesting place to go off.
Yeah, as he lost at mid-corner. Oh, he's just run a little bit wide, and maybe, well, there might be a few marbles out there, I guess. But yeah, just losing control of the car, and then the grass really sending him round and almost bringing him to a halt. So pretty much what we expected then. Sevi Sabe coming in, and Kraft is able to do the extra lap, and of course this is now the lap where Kraft has to push not only to get track position but also a gap if possible, so that Sevi Sabe can't use his draft when the pit stops are complete. And you can see how hard he's pushing through turn 1 right there. That is a shame though that Pigman's made that mistake. He was in that real tight battle with Grosseto, and they both had a chance at catching up to Luritzen as well by the end of the race, but that has lost him. Well, try to see how much that time has lost him. Well, 7 seconds, so you might be able to still fight with, maybe fight with a couple of drivers around that so range. Maybe fight with Mork later on. Mork able to do an extra lap actually. Meanwhile, all his AM rivals coming in, Sorensen, Shuri, and Co.
And there you go. So he's able to just carry on that extra bit. You can see Daniel Kraft really on a push here to try and get the overcut done. You can see, remember Matthias Berg, of course, he did pit early on with the damage. He hasn't made his way back up to 3rd place now, but is still a ways off of Daniel Simizaba. But this is Daniel Kraft now on a big push through the bus stop chicane. Doesn't have to worry about that big old sausage curve anymore on the exit of the bus stop. It's a really tidy lap from him so far. And now what he's got to make sure is that he gets it stopped for the pit lane. He cannot afford to speed or miss the pit entry here as he comes round the oval. You'll see he has to commit to the left-hand side early and try to get it in. Commits now, tries to get it stopped before that line, gets the pit limiter on, and perfectly done from Daniel Kraft. Let's see if this overcut is going to work for him or not. Daniel Simizaba with a clean stop, and now let's see if Pure Sim can keep their hold on this race at the moment as he gets it stopped in the box on the marks, and let's see if it works. Let's see if the overcut will work for him.
Yeah, it's surely you'd expect it to be profitable for him. Sevi Sabe was stationary for 23.85. That's really average in terms of the pit stop times. I mean, we've seen Pavona with a 21.65. That's the shortest so far. Kraft 22.52. So it's not a much shorter pit stop for Kraft. He should have track advantage, but it could be close between the two of them. He needs that second gap if he can possibly get it. There comes his teammate round the first couple of corners. Well, this is going to be close. Sevi Sabe with more speed as they approach the hairpin right now. And the gap is around a second. Maybe Siri Sabo with slightly warmer tyres needs to have a good middle sector here to get himself back into draft range, but Kraft has done all he could do there. 1.3 seconds now is the gap. I think the changeover is about 2 seconds during that pit stop range, and the winner from race 1 at Spa is the race leader here at Daytona.
Yeah, and Jack Wells with a clean and safe stop. And what I'm very impressed with, Loveridge has pitted and come out in second. After all of that, lap number 1, he was in the wall and he's managed to get out in front of Solberg in 3rd place with the overcut. That is brilliant, brilliant, brilliant work from Matt Loveridge. Came in behind Jack Wells and has managed to work his way up just about in front of Solberg, and also Wilhelmsen only less than a second back from these guys as well. So they're all tightly knit together, but Jack Wells with a comfortable 9-second lead. But we know, Sam, how quick Matt Loveridge is, so I would not call this race over yet. Let's see how quick he can go.
Yeah, I sort of look away. I mean, I knew Loveridge was catching up because he was over half a minute behind the race lead at one point. Then I saw it get to about 22 seconds, and now it's 10 seconds. And he didn't have a particularly short pit stop either, getting to about a second on pit road as Solberg gets in close heading into the bus stop right now. But no, Loveridge absolutely storming along, and I think he's got to be the favourite for the race win right now because, like I said, that gap was over half a minute at one point. If Loveridge keeps up this pace, he should catch up to his fellow countrymen by the end of the event, and then Solberg and Wilhelmsen still really close behind. Araya with that, I mean, yeah, absolute race wrecked there. He's racing with De Philippis. He's completely out of it. He's 40 seconds behind these guys.
Yeah, and that just shows you that's how one bit of damage can cost you nearly a minute, as Loveridge is on the absolute charge right now. He's actually broken the draft to Stian Solberg, who caught up to him on the straight, but now the Audi stretching its legs as it comes through the middle sector right now and bringing the gap down little by little. This is going to be a climactic end to this race. Jack Wells is going to be, he's led basically every lap since, we got a spinner in the background. That was Solberg, I think, who went off. It is Solberg who just went in a little bit too hot into the hairpin, gets back going again, thankfully. And maybe there was contact between himself and Wilhelmsen, because the two of them have rejoined the circuit right there. Let's see if we can see what happened here as they come down into the braking zone. This is a very tricky braking zone coming in here. Wilhelmsen coming in, Solberg going on the inside. He actually spins it out, and Wilhelmsen also does it by himself. Absolutely unreal.
Yeah, and, you know, earlier on when Lane had a spin at the bus stop, when he looked like he was going to take the lead, I mean, that was fair enough for Lane. He had to try to slow down in order to avoid an instant. But Wilhelmsen there just being put off. I mean, he saw the instant ahead and just got put off. I think there's also the idea in iRacing that sometimes if the driver ahead of you spins, that can actually heat up the circuit, I think, and can reduce grip. I'm not sure if that's got any validity. I imagine Wilhelmsen will be saying that, however, and claiming that the Czech lost grip just in front of him, and yeah, overall from that they seem to have lost a similar amount of time, but it has really allowed Loveridge to pull away comfortably in P2. There's the gap between the top two in the P2 pros, and Kraft is pulling away. He got Czech position, and already he's opened up that gap about half a second since the pit stops, and so Kraft would surely need to make a mistake from here on in order for Siri Sabe to have a chance at the race win.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's got he has got some work to do still. He's got to hold his position as you see Pigments and Grassetto.
Oh no! They want to race against each other.
Yeah, they do, and unfortunately that was brought about by Grassetto, I think, having a spin in the middle sector right there. So it's catching a lot of people out. This very same sector, and Grassetto, who was battling with Pigments, has now unfortunately ended up a ways behind it. But maybe, just maybe, they might end up together later on in the race. But Fabio Grassetto, unfortunately, with that, has ended up behind Brian Pigments by about 3 seconds, and not massively behind, but he's still got some time to make up. So that's a Jack Wells 27.4, Loveridge 26.5. He's catching him at a rate of a second a lap. Is Matt Loveridge in the LMP1 category. He's the quickest man out of the LMP1s at the moment, and has brought the gap down to 6.5 seconds. So at the moment, he's going to catch him in about 5 or 6 laps time. So it's going to be pretty tight to the end, I think.
It is, and just by the way as well, it was Wilhelmsen who made that contact with us. So we see Loveridge move past. It was Wilhelmsen who made that contact with Pigments, apologies, with the Grossetti. So I wonder if there'll be a protest involved in that one. Not sure which way that one would go. However, Araya is trying to get past De Philippis. De Philippis has held this one off for a while, and there goes Lane on the outside. But there's a car in the middle of the circuit. That's Joseph Klist, I think, and they just could not avoid if they could possibly try it. In the end, Araya is at the head of these guys. Who got the most damage from this? So this was just Klist losing it by himself. He was absolutely stationary on circuit, and it just left these guys who were so close already, no chance at avoiding. And it was Araya who made that contact, but he was the one who got ahead in it all. De Philippis was the one who had to run wide, and of course that's bad news for Araya because he has already used his faster pair. It does not seem to be slowing him up too much, but this will be the real test. It looks alright to me, Jack.
Yeah, he may have got away with this one, Luis Araya, just with that contact into turn one. Obviously, nothing he could do about it. No, and it was funny. There was so many things going on. We had LMP1 overshoot the corner while Araya made the contact with Joseph Klist, who just carried too much speed into turn one. One of those lazy spins that the LMP2s, of course, have. The traction control would have kicked in. He would have tried to save it by slamming on the brake, but gave Araya no opportunity to try to avoid it. And unfortunately, he made contact. But it seems, just by looking at these trackside cameras, it doesn't look like he's actually picked up any damage from that. And if it is very, very minor compared to what he had earlier. So Luis Araya survives that one. Daniel Civizalbo, though, nearly just under that second margin. He's getting closer, and he's just going to be at the very edge of that draft range now to his teammate Daniel Croft. So these two maybe now are going to start to fight for the race win. So Civizalbo, he led every single lap up until the pit stops. He doesn't want to relinquish a race win right now.
Absolutely not. Well, this is quite a change, isn't it? Because it really did seem like Kraft was running away with it. But yeah, that 0.3 of a second lost on the last lap. And yeah, now that he's in the drafts, this race is very much back on. I think Kraft lost quite a bit of time on this lap as well. Was it just a single mistake? Or yeah, so he lost 0.4 in sector 5 on the last lap. Yeah, so he just lost. Yeah, so that pretty much that entire gap on that last lap was due to that final sector. But I think that was just because of the draft. So yeah, this one is very much back on. I should never have doubted Civizalbo from his chances. Thanks to everyone who has tuned in for this race, by the way. It's been really action-packed, and I hope you have enjoyed it. Of course, if you want to sign up for this championship, then do. There are still slots available in the P2 and the P1 classes, as the 219 car of Jaden Burke is starting. That's actually lost him a position there to Julius Marx, and he won't be too far ahead of Damerick as well once he gets back going. But yeah, there are still spots on the grid available, so do go to apexracingleague.com in order to sign up. Where you can also sign up for our new GT3 Trophy Championship. That's starting in a couple of weeks. Our F4 Championship as well on Saturday evenings, and our Week 13 special events in the Super Trucks. Free to enter is that event. Do check that all out on apexracingleague.com, as these guys are having an absolute epic battle here. De Philippis did not leave a car's width out on the outside, but he was fully ahead, so he was allowed to do so, and Lane has to stay behind. And good news for Araya, that damage is not costing him because he's now 4 seconds ahead of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to obviously reiterate that Super Trucks event, if you are unsure about signing up, I highly encourage you to go watch the ARL Super Trucks round from Hockenheim from last year, and you will see how much fun that event is going to be. So do check out apexracingleague.com for that. As they now battle it out, Josh Lane up the inside of De Philippis, gets it done before the bus stop, and now very much up into P6, trading positions between the Audi and the Porsche. Now, just to say, Jack Wells does seem to have responded as Burke comes down pit lane. Obviously, didn't have enough fuel in the tank to make it, and he's going to have to take a splash and go to get to the end here. Either that or there is some damage on that. As now you can see De Philippis in the Audi coming back down the straight. Going to try to come around the outside into turn 1, try to shut the door on him. Unfortunately, can't quite do it. Josh Lane hangs on to it and stays in P6. So just as I was saying, Jack Wells did set a personal best on that previous time with a 26.9. The unfortunate news for him is that Loveridge was on a 26.1. So he is still catching him, but Jack Wells maybe now has started to up the pace. Let's have a look at what the gap is now. 2.6 seconds is the gap now. Jack Wells across the line. His previous lap time will come up in just a moment. 26.9, Loveridge 25.9. Another second taken out, and Loveridge is edging ever closer to what would be a hell of a victory if he can pull it off.
It seems fairly inevitable right now, doesn't it? I cannot see Wells being able to resist this. Only 2 laps away. He's going to be able to catch him with about 8 minutes to spare in the race. And then once he does get past, which is very easy around this type of circuit with the boost that you have in the LMP1s as well, Wells is surely not going to have anything to rival him with. What a drive it has been from Jack Wells. So impressive tonight. And he has just not put a foot wrong. He only started in P4, inherited the lead when the top 3 all spun at the bus stop on lap 1. And since then, he has been, phenomenal. So I think he will take P2. He couldn't have really done any more in this race. This time round, though, Loveridge, unless he just decides to leave the boost till the last straight, perhaps, might be a tactic that he uses, not getting quite so much. But actually, it's through the bus stop, isn't it? He gains about 0.4 of a second right there, and he is nearly within draft range as he storms past one of the Apex Tech cars.
Yeah, he's using that boost effectively and has brought the gap down by a further second. And now, unfortunately, Jack Wells was also impeded by that car on the exit of the bus stop, which would have affected things as they came across Loveridge with the fastest lap of the race to boot on that previous time as well. And he is now in between, he's just got one car in between himself and Jack Wells and that race lead. Up the inside comes Loveridge now, clears the 255 machine, and now his next target is Jack Wells in the lead of this race. Let's see, can Jack Wells hang on for a further 9 minutes against Matt Loveridge? It seems unlikely, but you got to think he's going to give it his best go. But Loveridge just seems to be the man with the plan. Oh dear, that is a riot in the barrier at the bus stop. And unfortunately, this has gone from bad to worse for him now as the battle for the lead heats up now. Here comes Loveridge. Will he boost past him now as they join the oval, getting on the straight? Wells using the boost there, it seems, just pulling away, desperately trying to get away from that Audi as they come down the straight into the bus stop. And it seems, as you mentioned, Sam, Loveridge with the boost advantage on the exit of the bus stop chicane. In they will come onto the brakes. It seems inevitable now. Loveridge close a huge amount into the bus stop chicane, onto the power now. Is this where the Audi is the strongest? Will he sit behind? Will he save again? A little bit of boost applied by Jack Wells there, hanging on for dear life as they come down towards turn 1, round the last corner in the oval. Loveridge in the draft. Is this the move for the lead now, down towards turn 1? Here comes Matt Loveridge. He was in the wall on lap 1. Can he take the lead with 8 minutes to go in this race into turn 1? Loveridge late on the brakes, and he takes the lead on this race in Daytona with 8 minutes to go after being in the wall on lap number 1. What a hell of a drive.
He was over half a minute behind, remember. He's had to make an extra pit stop around Daytona, which is not easy to do. And yet he has stormed to the lead, and yet 8 minutes to go, he is ahead. And there is very little that can stop him. Wells put all the fight that he could possibly do. But has Loveridge hit the wall? He has! He's onto the grass, and he's lost it again, and he's left himself with a lot to do. Now this is going to be a bit close, but he's now having to rejoin onto the grass. That 1,000 brake horsepower is not going to help him in that scenario, and he's got 7 seconds to catch in 7 minutes. Now, he's caught already over half a minute. But he has just made this race ever so tricky for himself, and that is a common mistake we have seen tonight, Jack, and that time it was just dipping a wheel onto the grass.
Can you believe it? Jack Wells is still hanging on to this lead. He wouldn't have been able to believe his luck. He thought it was all gone, and then Loveridge just took a little bit too much speed into the hairpin, dips a wheel on the grass, and ends up facing the wrong way, having to get back going again. There's 7 minutes to go. There's very little time left. So now it's all in the hands of Jack Wells to just hang on once again to try and take what would be a fantastic victory. But Matt Loveridge has made life very hard for himself. Let's have a look at what happened here. We're on board with Loveridge now as he heads into the hairpin, gets on the brakes, tries to get it turned in, and just overshoots, can't get it turned in, and then just swaps it around and was lucky not to get collected. And then he has the horrific task of having to go across the grass to get onto the what is the rallycross circuit and get back going again. But just unusual, just couldn't get the car slowed down. Dipped a wheel on the grass and instant spin for Matt Loveridge there. And it would seem like he's got too much of a gap to make up in too little time right now, and the gap is sort of staying stable now.
Yeah, and when he dipped a wheel onto the grass, he didn't straighten up the car, and of course hindsight's a wonderful thing. But he could have very much minimalised the time loss there. If he just straightened the car up straight away, he may have been able to avoid the oversteer and just lost a few seconds instead of the nearly 10 seconds that he lost. So you're right, gap isn't coming down too much, albeit it's mainly in the bus stop where he gains a lot of time. Well, keep an eye on that one. We'll keep an eye on this one as well. It has been close throughout between these teammates. And it's Civi Sabo actually now in the lead, so he didn't see the change of position. However, it's not too important because, at least for me, Jack, if I was one of these drivers, I would want to be in P2 going on to the final lap and going through that bus stop because the draft seems so powerful that it seems to be the place to be. As was Kraft letting him go? Oh, he was just waiting for him to go past right there. That's almost stuff that you'll see on the velodrome in the Kieran, I believe it's called. Civi Sabo back to the lead, but tactical from Kraft.
Yeah, obviously he wants to be behind Civi Sabo right now, but as you said, yes, he would want to be the second car in line coming on to these last laps to have a chance. But as you can see there, I think has he picked up a slowdown, or is he just staying out of the draft there to not close up? He doesn't want to pass Civi Sabo, and he wants to minimise the chance that he might pass him by just coming out of the draft for a little bit through the last corner. And then he'll just close right up in towards turn 1, sit behind, and judged that perfectly. And as you can see, their lap times absolutely identical, almost to the 100th, 133.8 and a 33.8 for each of them across the line there. So nicely done from the Pure Sim guys as they continue to fight for the lead. It'll be interesting to see whether I'm assuming they're just going to see what happens on the final lap. It's going to be all left up to their own driving to see who can come out on top. Can Daniel Kraft win again, or can Civi Sabo take his first win of the season? We'll have to wait and see, as they've got ticking over towards 3.5 minutes to go right now, and these guys are obviously waiting. This is going to be a grandstand finish between these two. Now, I am looking, Matt Loveridge is catching very quickly. It's about 1.5 seconds he took out that time. It's still not over for Matt Loveridge. Jack Wells could very much make a mistake, but also he's running out of laps. He needs to be catching close to 2 to 3 seconds a lap at this point. He's brought the gap down to 5 seconds, but it may be just a tad bit too late. But again, traffic for Jack Wells will be catching up to him now. Loveridge in the 25s. Wells, his previous lap was at 28. So it's just, he needs a minimum 2.5 seconds a lap to catch.
Yeah, and we'll see if we basically end on the hour mark, or whether we'll get just one more lap in as we go over to the hour. That could be quite significant as well. I think we're going to have it's just going to be two more laps after this, isn't it? And then that will be over, so we will miss out on a third lap right there, and then that will be it for the race. By the way, been a very good battle going on between Brian Pigmans and Jake Sherry for a while. Sherry started from the back, and they are in the same class, but they are still fighting for points off one another. This one has been very close for a while, worth just showing it, because these two have been locked together. But I think, once again, a move at this stage doesn't matter that much, because track position doesn't mean a whole lot when you go on to the last lap. You can see there Sherry having no interest in passing into turn 1. Quick shout out to another one of our sponsors, by the way, Apex Racing Academy. Apex Racing Academy providing data packs for 29 cars on iRacing. That includes the P2, for example, along with rallycross cars, single-seaters, GT cars as well. And even the touring cars as well. So do check out apexracingac.com. Big thanks to them for sponsoring the series. So we've got those 3 battles going on. Gap between the 2 leaders, I am now seeing it at, has it just increased? I think Loveridge has just made a mistake. There he is, he's slow. It's another mistake from Loveridge, and maybe if he got away with the first one, maybe if he got away with the second one, he's not going to get away with this one.
No, absolutely not. He's coming into the hairpin here.
turns it in all nicely, and there's just two cars that have made contact in front of him, and he unfortunately collects them, and ends up, I think that was Malcharak, I think, who was facing the wrong way. Yeah, it was Malcharak, who ended up collecting another car who seemed to have spun by himself in front, and unfortunately, he couldn't get slowed down, locked it all up, and just was maybe a bit distracted by the headlights facing him, that he didn't quite get it slowed down in time. Well, if there's any doubt now, it seems that Jack Wells is destined, or would seem to be, in control of this race as they cross the line. So this will be the final lap, it would seem, for these guys as they cross the line with 59 minutes of the hour to go. And it is now all in the hands of Jack Wells trying to secure this. It'll be interesting to see how the P2 Pro category is going to go as well, because Sivi Zalbo and Daniel Croft still very close together, and that is still yet to be decided between those two, as they have one more lap to go. But Jack Wells, you have to say, is he's driven basically flawlessly today, and he's had everything fall his way, which sometimes you need in racing, and on course right now for what is a well-deserved victory.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've spoken to Jack in the past here at Apex Racing TV. I think he's a fairly inexperienced driver in Apex Racing League. I can only hope that he's a nice man, because the amount of luck that he's been given in this race is very fortuitous. But he's taken all of it, and you know, yeah, he's just driven great, as you were saying previously. Those three cars spinning in front of him on that one. I think he honestly had the pace to beat Taylor Lane anyway today, or Josh Lane, apologies. But yeah, he's been absolutely phenomenal as he is approaching the line now to take his first ever Apex Racing League victory. Jack Wells for Beast Racing takes a surprise win in the P1 category, and that is a mighty effort for the British driver. Congratulations. Luritzen and Mork has crossed the line. Mork makes it 2 from 2 in the P2 amateur category. Shuri will finish in second place, so that's a great effort there from Shuri. We have got the duel between the P2s though still going on. Fortunately, we get to see pretty much the entire lap because they were just short of being lapped, and now we see who is in the correct position. Sivi Sabo ahead at the moment. Kraft desperate not to overtake, but Kraft needs to make sure he absolutely nails this bus stop in order to take this race win. Even if they crash into each other from here, they will still get the race win because Luritzen has already crossed the line.
Yeah, they're that far in front. So let's see now. Battle between the teammates. Can Daniel Croft make it 2 from 2? Or can Daniel Zivizabo hang on? Here they go through the bus stop for the last time. The two teammates about to go toe-to-toe on the exit. Is Daniel Croft's exit good? It certainly is. Has he got enough? It's going to be an absolute run to the line between Daniel Zivizabo and Daniel Croft. Up to the high line comes Zivizabo, desperate to hang on. Back down to the low line. I think Croft might just have enough here. It's going to be very, very tight as they come down towards the line. Daniel Croft trying his best to get alongside. It's going to be absolutely side by side of the line across. Who gets it? Kraft gets it by 300ths of a second across the line. He timed it perfectly and makes it 2 from 2. Daniel Zivizabo has to settle for second place. Brilliant battle between the two of them, and Daniel Kraft, our championship leader in the P2 Pros, makes it 2 wins from 2 with a perfectly timed overtake around the outside of his teammate. But you have to say, if it wasn't his teammate, it may have been a bit harder.
Yeah, and you had a lot more faith than I did, because I thought Kraft was way too far back. He was over 0.4 of a second behind going through the bus stop. I thought, nah, he's left it too far. But that acceleration just on the run to the line, the fact that they don't quite reach the rev limiter, meant that his speed was so quick across the line, and even with that higher line, he had to take a slightly longer route. He was able to get it done right at the line. 3/100ths of a second, undoubtedly going to be our closest finish of the season. You're absolutely right earlier on, Jack, in predicting that we might have a run to the line for the race victory. Super action-packed race. I mean, Spa maybe wasn't the most action-packed race we've ever seen on the channel, but this one's up there. And Wells, Kraft and Mork end up your race winners, and all three of them extremely well deserved, as we should be able to go through your final standings for this round of the championship. And I will actually take this quick opportunity as well to thank Virtual Racing School Another one of our sponsors here on Apex Racing League, Virtual Racing School, offering over 50 data packs for both road and oval racing, and those data packs including setups, track guides, data analysis software, and one-on-one coaching. Do check out Virtual Racing School if you want to get faster on iRacing. As we see those results, Wells in first place. Loveridge, considering that he had one spin, 2 contacts, an extra pit stop. It's fairly remarkable that he finished in second place and he brings himself right back into the championship. Might even be championship leader, honestly, after tonight. Stian Solberg was in third position. Quiet race for him in the end. Wilhelmsen kind of fell away from Solberg in the end. He was in fourth. He had a couple of spins, I think. Then it was Josh Lane, Roberto De Filippis, and Louis Araya, who, despite that contact with the tyre wall, we never really saw what happened with that one, actually. Maybe we'll see that during the interviews. He didn't have enough damage to have to retire from the race, fortunately. Daniel Kraft was top of the P2 Pros for the second time this season. Then it was Daniel Sivisabe. Alexander Luritzen was in third place. Then it was Thomas Mork, who was top of the P2 AMS. Then it was Brian Pigmans, Jake Shuri, Fabio Grissetto, Thomas Sorensen, Matthias Berg, Marco Pavona, Justus Marks, Christian Malchurek, James Ibram, Mortson Kofode, Paul Clist, Ivan Damrick, Jackie Lotzerman there in the P1s will not get any points, unfortunately, on his first. Apologies, of course, P2. He will not get any points in his first race of the season. Jaden Burke was in 25th, then it was Chase Robertson who rounded out the order. So we will get some interviews with some of our drivers now. And so far, we have a couple of interviews available. I am going to drag up, first of all, Stein Solberg, who joins us in the commentary box right now. Stein, congratulations out there. Action-packed race, I think, for lots of drivers. Your race started off particularly action-packed, I must say. That P1 battle for third position was very intense.
Yeah, that was a really hard race for me. I did have a couple spins on the way before the finish.
In the end, you were only 21 seconds behind the race leader. You think without those couple of spins that you could have maybe got close to the top 2?
I could have tried at least. I don't know, actually. I think the other were really fast.
Yeah, they absolutely were. And how's the battling out there with the other LMP1s? Because I mean, this is such a high-speed circuit, a lot of slipstreaming. Was it tricky to stay ahead once you made a move on your opponent?
Yeah, I think so, because the other could be faster in a trickier part than me, and I was fast on the straights.
Well, when it comes to raceability, I imagine that's helped out a bit. And next up, we've got Le Mans, which of course is an iconic car track combination. I know that divides opinion, but are you a fan of that circuit?
Yeah, I like it, but it's only slipstreaming, so I'm not really sure.
Well, we wish you the best of luck for that one, Stein. Hopefully you have a straight line advantage around that circuit as well. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, my teammate Lewis will persuade with me to be on the league.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, and yeah, best of luck next week.
Thank you very much.
Jack, who would you like to jack up next?
Well, thankfully they're all in order at the moment down in the interview waiting. I'm gonna have a chat with our second place man, Matt Loveridge, joins us in the interview box. Matt, well, from being in the wall on lap number 1 to second place, very much could have been the win, obviously, but hell of a drive nonetheless.
Yeah, that was That was some very hard work I had to put in after the netcode hit, which I'll take full responsibility for. If I'm honest, after looking at the replay, I may have pushed Luis too far to the left, and I don't think even with the netcode we'd make it together. But that was hard work, despite some very poor luck with the grass and maybe a bit of traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just talk us through, because you ended up almost, I think, at one point about half a minute to a minute behind in the early stages. So how did you manage to bridge that gap over the course of the race? Was there, obviously with the extra pit stop as well, how did that work for you?
I'll be honest, I have no idea how I made an entire minute in less than an hour. If I I was even amazed.
Yeah, well, so are we. That's why we're asking you. But obviously, you have no idea either. So that's that's not going to help us. But obviously, came right down to the wire. You ended up making the move past Jack for the lead. Just what happened into the hairpin?
I must have broke a little bit too late, while also being a little bit too soft on the brakes. I then spiked the throttle a tiny bit on the grass, which caused the spin. Unfortunately, costing me the lead. But I'll say this to Jack: he drove well today. He deserves the win as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We certainly agree with that. It drove flawlessly. But as well, we're obviously heading off to Le Mans as the next race. Obviously, you looked very, very strong here today. So what are your thoughts heading into Le Mans?
Le Mans going to be absolutely interesting. I will say this now. Despite the very long straights, there are some tight corners. There's going to be a lot of boosting. A bit like Daytona, it's going to be a lot of speed, a lot of boosting, but it's also going to be a very bumpy track. You have to know what line to take around Le Mans because of how bumpy it can be and how unpredictable it can also be with the temperatures and as well as wind speed. I do apologize for stuttering.
No problems at all. Obviously, yeah, of course, the bumps around them on absolutely infamous. But before we let you off, Matt, is there anyone you'd like to say a quick thank you to or give you a shout out to?
I'd like to thank my team for egging me on. My team director Charles egged me on further and further, even if it looked like things were looking quite bleak. He still kept me motivated. I'd also like to thank the rest of the team as well, Thomas, as well as Daniel Merchant. They were also egging me on as well. I'd like to thank all of the team as well, just to allowing me to sort of keep pushing to my limit, as well as do my best.
Well, great stuff. Well, Matt, thanks very much for hopping in with us. Congratulations on a brilliant drive, and we will see you at Le Mans next week.
Thank you very much.
Well, that was Matt Loveridge, who joined us in the commentary box. And, well, Sam, there's only one man left to talk to, and I'm excited to hear his thoughts.
Yes, it is the man of the hour. It is Jack Wells who joins us in the commentary box. Jack, we love to see miracles happen on the on Apex Racing TV. And you made that miracle possible tonight. You had some luck on your side, but what a brilliant drive from yourself to get the race win.
Yeah, no, very happy with that. Definitely a bit of luck with the lap one. I think I would have been battling for the podium without what happened there. But yeah, I mean, fair play to Matt. It was a great comeback drive. Not sure what happened in the horseshoe for him to spin. I nearly got in a little bit of an incident with LMP2 at the same time. So yeah, definitely a bit lucky, but I just tried to run my race, do what I could.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone else pretty much made a mistake. I mean, even in the LMP2s, drivers were making mistakes, and it was particularly prominent in the LMP1s. Yet you were just putting in those lap times, extending the gap. I mean, over Stein, for example, you really extended it in the second half of the race. I mean, do you know why you were able to be that much more consistent? Is that a tendency for you to maybe have a little bit more margin for error compared to your rivals?
Yeah, I think that's one of my strengths. When I got into the practice pre-race, I hadn't done a massive this track, but I saw that most people were putting in one strong lap and then not able to replicate that. So I just sort of was settled in with my pace that I had going into the actual race start. Stein was really pushing me at the start as well to keep extending my times, and I had to really get fast at the end to try and keep safe from Matt. But yeah.
And when Matt was catching you near the end, I mean, was there really much of a temptation to fight? I mean, what was your mindset there? Were you really reluctant to let the race lead go, or were you just happy to settle for second place?
I tried to up my pace as much as I could as he was approaching to see what my limit was, and then when he got near, I thought I'm not going to give it to him, but if he makes a good move like he did around that sort of turn one, I wasn't going to argue with that. So yeah.
Next up, we have Le Mans. I know that in the LMP ones, the strength kind of ebbs and flows from race to race. Do you think that's going to be a strong track for the Porsche?
I'm not sure. From what I can tell, the last two tracks have been very strong for the Audis, just based on the guys in the Audis' pace. But yeah, I'm not sure going into Le Mans what will be the strengths and weaknesses of each car. But definitely excited for it. Probably one of my favourite tracks, if not my favourite. So give it my best showing.
Yeah, best of luck for making it back-to-back wins next time out, Jack. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Just my team, Beast Racing, and also shout out to Terry for watching along at the end, and he helped cheer me on at the end of the broadcast. So.
Awesome. Well, thanks for jumping in and having a chat with us. And yeah, thanks for tonight, and best of luck next week.
Thanks, guys.
Jack Wells there, your race winner in the P1s. I think Jack, the other Jack, we may have time for one more interview.
Yeah, we do actually have more time for one more interview. I think it'd be nice if we did hear from one of our LMP2 guys and our LMP2 winner, of course, Daniel Croft, hopping in with us. Daniel, well, came right down literally to the line between yourself and Daniel Civizabo for the win, and by 3/100ths, I think it was in the end, a fantastic victory.
Yeah, it was an intense race. Got a bit unlucky at the start. My teammate got pole. He put in a cracking lap, and my strategy was just going to be sit behind him and fuel save. But the Apex Tech Racing team decided that they didn't want to fuel save and were overtaking me. So yeah, I sat behind them, and then a couple of LMPs broke us up, and yeah, I was very lucky to survive an incident at the bus stop, and then I think I was 4 seconds behind. At that point, I had to push really, really hard to catch back up. Yeah, it was super tricky, but managed to close the gap. After the pits, I thought I could break away, but it didn't work out that way. And yeah, as soon as I knew that it was a draft race, I sat in behind my teammate, and yeah, my chosen strategy was to wait until the last lap, last straight, and hope that I could get the draft. And thought, I was very lucky that I was able to take the victory today.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw you were able to save an extra lap of fuel compared to the rest of them. Do you think that was a helping factor for you in the race as well?
It allowed me to come out in the pits in the lead, but it would have only have been beneficial if I broke the draft, and I didn't break the draft. I did take less fuel than my teammate, but I didn't save enough to break that, and then he could fuel save behind me, so for a bit. So it wasn't the defining factor. I don't think. If I was able to sit behind him for the whole first stint, then I would have got a really big gap and break the draft.
Yeah, well, obviously, we're only 2 rounds in, but you have managed to get 2 from 2 so far. Obviously, heading into Le Mans, you've got a nice healthy lead in the championship fight now as well. I know many of you don't think that far ahead, but obviously there's a bit of confidence there.
Yeah, it's been a perfect start to the season. Le Mans also, it's going to be a tricky track. It's another drafting track, so I expect it to be a really tight battle. We're all preparing a lot for it because we're taking part in the Majors 24 as a team, so we've got our setup dialed in already. And yeah, it's going to be a real battle next Friday.
Certainly. Well, before we lay off, Daniel, is there anyone you'd like to say a quick thank you to or give a shout out to while we're still live?
I would just like to say thank you to the team, Pure Sims Esports, yeah, Pure Sims Simulator, SimLab, Crazy Setup Shop, and yeah, KRD Designs who do our paints. They look fantastic on broadcast. And yeah, thank you to you guys for the broadcast. Look forward to watching it back.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Well, thank you for joining us, and we will see you at Le Mans next week.
See you guys.
Well, that was Daniel Kraft, the final interviewee for tonight. And just as he was talking there, Sam, we just came on the replay there, how close he actually was to disaster in turn number 1. Very, very nearly, by mere inches, avoided getting collected by a spinning, rejoining Josh Lane in turn 1. So that could have very much been a defining point in that race.
Yeah, there was pretty much every corner we went round, there seemed to be a stationary car just on the edge of the circuit, didn't there? Lots of drivers sort of making solo mistakes, and of course that affected many drivers, and yeah, perhaps Kraft. Bit fortunate to survive that one, but yeah, 2 race wins from 2, at least Siri Sabo keeping that points gap fairly small by finishing runner up in the first 2 rounds as well, but certainly Pure Sims looking very good. Next round of the season, we've already talked about it a bit, Jack, but Le Mans, and yeah, the draft was strong around this circuit. It's going to be even stronger around there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a crazy one. And you heard even mentioning from Daniel Kraft there that obviously the Majors 24 coming up, as well as the unofficial official Le Mans on the way as well. So especially these guys in the P2s will be putting a lot of time and effort into getting a setup dialed in for the 24. So expect that to be ultra competitive. It's going to be obviously very draft orientated, and I think it's going to be an even more exciting affair, especially in the P2 class when they're all bunched up together. Because as we've seen, between all the Apex Tech Racing cars and the Pure Sim guys, there's a very nice team battle that's unfolding there.
Yeah, and we could have had a real nice team battle tonight. Hopefully we see it really come alive next week. Certainly the track to make it possible, I imagine. So that will, of course, be next week, same time on Apex Racing TV. Of course, if you want to sign up for the championship, do, and check out all our other series on apexracingleague.com. You can also join our Discord server. There's a link to that in the description below. Big thanks to Apex Racing Academy, to Virtual Racing School, and to SDK Gaming for sponsoring this broadcast and offering some great prizes for the top drivers and teams. And also, if you've enjoyed this video, do leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel, and check out our social media as well on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as well. Yeah, there's going to be a couple of highlight videos, I imagine, from this race. It was a really action-packed one. And yeah, do make sure to join us next week. But for now, from myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Jack Canan, and from John Robertson, we are going to say goodbye, and we'll see you at Le Mans.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.